We're going to get a bit of wind here over the next day or two, and we'll call the meeting to order. First, I need a approval of the minutes from July the 28th, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor McKenzie. Second?
Councillor Hickey.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. And on the question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Anyone contrary minded? Okay, not seeing any. Thank you. Motion is carried. The next item we have is an agenda item on restructuring and growth, and I'm going to turn that over to our Commissioner of Growth and Development, Ms. Jacqueline Hamilton. Good morning.
Good afternoon, Your Worship, members of the Growth Committee. Today, I'm pleased to give you an update on the city's corporate restructuring efforts as it relates to how we deliver growth-related services in the city. Well, certainly one of the key drivers of the corporate org structure was to make way for a leaner public service. There are also many changes that will allow for more effective delivery of the city's growth-related services to better support outcomes related to growth in the city. As part of this change, the name of the department is changing to Growth and Community Services. This marks a key change in our mandate and core responsibilities. There are a number of key moves in terms of the structure that I'd like to highlight for you this afternoon, and of course we'll provide more details as the structure starts to take shape later this fall. So first of all, as it relates to economic development, certainly the new agency, Regional Economic Development Agency, will play a significant role in accelerating growth outcomes on behalf of the region. As part of the city's new internal structure, we have also identified key point of contacts related to economic development. So from an operations perspective, the Chief Economic Development Officer, when in place, will have a point of contact with the city's Growth and Community Services Department, and will also have a direct line to the City Manager's office, given his role as the city's representative on the new board. I'm also pleased to share that there will be a centralized growth team within our department that will be focused on driving a culture of growth across the organization and providing leadership to Growth Committee and various growth programming on behalf of the city, and will also play that role as a key liaison with our external economic development partners. As Growth Committee is aware, the functions of population attraction will migrate to the new Regional Economic Development entity. I'm pleased to share that David Alverstein's role will change with this move, and within the City of St. John, he will take on a new leadership role that will provide leadership more broadly on growth-related programs within the city. The city market is also being reorganized under Growth and Community Services. This move will reposition the city market as a strategic growth asset and will enable the aspirations which really were set out in the Central Peninsula Neighbourhood Plan to pursue a more strategic planning exercise for the city market in order to really focus the market on propelling growth and building on key successes such as the night market. Also effective this week, I'm pleased to share that the Parks, Recreation and Community Development Service has moved into the umbrella of growth. This includes programming aspects of parks and recreation service delivery, policy leadership of Play SJ, the city's recreation master plan, and support for important programs related to Pro Kids, community centers, neighborhood development, and community grants. With this transition, the responsibilities for recreational assets and facilities will stay with our transportation services, but the remainder of that policy leadership and program leadership will fall under our department. I'm also pleased to share that Ms. Amy McLennan will lead the new community services team overseeing parks and recreation programming. Amy brings deep experience in recreation service delivery. She has served in previous management roles and recently has experience with a secondment with the continuous improvement team. So she brings this deep leadership to this role. Please join me in welcoming Amy to our growth team. And finally, the department will continue our efforts related to customer service excellence, which really started with the one-stop development shop. We look forward to continued enhancements as we move our core development team to the first floor of City Hall in the coming weeks to support the city's overall one-stop approach to customer service with the new integrated customer service center. We will be making some structure changes to better integrate permitting and infrastructure approvals, and also implementing a centralized approach to bylaw enforcement and compliance with dedicated program resources to support high-profile growth-related programs. These changes will support, in my view, a more holistic approach to growth by really including all services that support quality of life under the umbrella of growth, which are clearly important levers in driving growth outcomes. This is certainly, from my perspective, an exciting time for our growth team. There's lots of change happening as we move our teams physically and as our staff take on new challenges and new roles. We are excited by the synergies created by these changes and the opportunity to fuse together these teams in a brand new department that will no doubt build on the foundational work that the Growth Committee has led and help bring transformational growth strategies to life, and will certainly play a key role in strengthening the city's value proposition and better positioning continued momentum around the growth file and to supercharge our growth efforts. So certainly keep Growth Committee engaged and updated as we move forward to fully implement this new structure, but I wanted to share with you some of the highlights today. Thank you, Your Worship.
Wow, that was a lot, Ms. Hamilton. Thank you. Thank you to you and the department, and welcome, Amy. Congratulations on your new role. So, questions, comments from members of the committee? Okay. Oh, Councillor McKenzie, did you have a comment?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Jacqueline, that was a great update. It's nice to see us move in the right direction so quickly, and welcome Amy to the team. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, not seeing any others, I don't believe. Yeah, just thank you. When I reflect on the work, and in particular to the Growth Committee, since that's our committee that we're meeting here today, when I reflect on the early days, workshopping in the summer of 2016, positioning growth as a key priority. We then went on to define that as people and jobs and growing the tax base, the roadmap for smart growth, the population growth strategy, changes to some of our economic development approach and framework, the birth of Develop St. John, the now alignment coming in the new year of all of our economic development agencies under one roof, the work that we've done to, in restructuring led by our city manager and his senior team. It's a really exciting time, and I'm not sure if we have any members of the media today online with us, but we could just get this news out and continue to talk about without being shy about it, the world-class performance of this organization, despite the headwinds that we sometimes have faced, the world-class performance of this organization, the care and the grit and the determination of its employees to serve the citizens. Can we do better? Yes, this organization is demonstrating that on a daily basis on how we are going to do and continue to commit to doing better. But I'm really excited, Ms. Hamilton, from your discussion with the strategic planning exercise to really the alignment of recreation recreation parks underneath your umbrella now, because I think it's a tremendous opportunity in a post-COVID world. Who would have thought that we would have record real estate sales in a post-COVID world? People moving back from Toronto, Vancouver. I've had conversations with someone from New York last week. I got message from someone from Texas last night. There's folks wanting to move back home or come to St. John from all over the world. So defining what it is, the strategies, the tactics to position our city and our region. And when the provincial government, the new majority government of Premier Higgs, acts on these municipal reform elements like taxation, like regional cost sharing, the future is very, very bright. So I think we're at a very, very exciting time to be involved in such a world-class organization. And I know your summary made it sound like, not to say it was easy. It is not lost on any of us the tremendous effort of staff. We're going through a time of tremendous change, and thank you just seems like inadequate. But thank you very much to you, to the city manager, and everyone else that has got their seatbelts on as we're going through a little bit of a roller coaster here over the last number of months. But it's a very exciting time. City manager.
Your worship, members of committee, just so that you're aware, we exposed this part of the restructure today for your information, and it's appropriate to do so since we are talking about growth today. Monday evening at council, I will be exposing something very similar that talks about this, but also the other key changes that the organizational review has put in place, so that you get the greater context, if you will, of who's doing what as we move through an organizational restructure that not only will improve our overall effectiveness because of some of the things that, for example, Jacqueline Hamilton has mentioned today, but we should also not lose sight of the fact that in this organizational restructure, we have eliminated approximately 6 managerial positions, a corresponding number of 486 or inside worker positions. We have eliminated over 30 positions in the outside workforce this year, with more to come in the subsequent years. And we have made a decision to reduce in other parts of our organization as well, in order to achieve efficiencies, but also to improve overall effectiveness. So it is a very significant restructure, and I will lay out the other parts of it in addition to the growth parts of it on Monday night, so that we get the whole meal deal on the street, if you will.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I don't think I heard anyone else wishing to speak on this matter, but thank you very much for the update. Could I just have a receive and file, please, committee?
So moved.
Thank you, John.
Seconded by Councillor Hickey.
Thank you, Councillor Hickey. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Anyone contrary-minded? Not hearing any. Thank you. Okay, our next item is we have a update on our new aligned regional economic development agency. That's a verbal update, and I'll ask the city manager to come back on stream and provide an update. And I think we have Mr. Carson here from Develop St. John as a guest, and we have I see WebEx and DSJ. I'm assuming that's Discover St. John. Welcome, observing here with us today, city manager.
Your worship, members of committee, it is actually my pleasure to talk about this. This is another very positive step forward in terms of our overall growth strategy for the city of St. John. This all started in January, almost 2 years ago, when we explored the possibility of different operating models for economic development within our city, because quite frankly, based on best practices, there are several different models that are possible, and we wanted to make sure that we were getting the best possible model for the city of St. John. It did not take very long in those deliberations to come to the conclusion that the ideal would be a regional model for economic development, and I am very pleased that the region has embraced that notion, and we are where we are today. I don't need to revisit the entire history and all of the details that are in the prospectus that the various regional towns and this city have supported through their councils. Today, the intent was simply to explain where we are and where we are headed. In order to achieve this new regional economic development model, it was very important for us to ensure that we had a transition coordinator put in place. And as has been previously announced, we contracted out that requirement and hired as a region Ms. Heather Libby to take that on, and she'll be introduced later on in this presentation. And that transition coordinator really does have the role to stand up the new organization on behalf of its board of directors, and until we get a chief economic development officer hired. In addition to standing up the new organization, we need to properly wind down the organizations that currently deliver economic development for our city. Two of them are internal to the city, that is to say, Discover St. John and Develop St. John. And then there is a third, which we are a major contributor, and that is Economic Development Greater St. John. For the record, and we have said this repeatedly in the past, I continue to say it now, and I'll say it to the dying days of these organizations. These organizations had delivered tremendous service to the city and by extension to the region. This reorganization has nothing to do with trying to fix a problem. Rather, this reorganization, this new model simply is an effort to get to the next level by having a single agency, single board, single vision, single budget moving forward. So in addition to standing up that new organization, we need to properly wind down our existing organizations. That has all sorts of dimensions to it, from financial obligations to legal considerations, and probably most notably from a people perspective or a human resource dimension. We would like to hang on to our talent, obviously, as we move forward, and we certainly would like to care for our people that have done such tremendous work within those agencies. So we have created our own internal team within the city. It is led by Deputy Commissioner of Growth, Mr. Phil Willett, and he'll speak in a few moments. And on that team, we have put together the necessary expertise to help the agencies wind down. The actual wind down of the various entities is the responsibility of the entities, but clearly we wish to work collaboratively with them to have the best possible transition, to maintain the momentum on economic development that currently exists within this city, and that includes destination marketing, and to come out the other end with a new organization that will continue to deliver the best possible services for the city and for the region. So that's my introduction, if you will. I'll hand over to Mr. Phil Willett at this point. We'll speak a little bit more about the wind down of the organizations, and then we'll hand over after that to Heather Libby to talk about the stand-up of the new organization. Mr. Willett.
Thank you, City Manager. I won't add too much more than what you've already shared, just that the team, the internal team tasked with this transition within the City of St. John have requested additional information from Discover and Develop. That information has since been sent to us. We'll be doing our due diligence to go through that documentation, define what are the key paths forward in this transition, and how we can best support the existing executive director and CEO in the transition, as well as their boards in these next steps. So we intend that to happen likely in the next coming month, that we'll be re-engaging with those agencies on this. Outside of that, the other thing that I think is really important is that although the information that we're collecting and the work that we're doing is related to John's term of the wind down, it also links very closely to the startup. So what we do to decide how we wind things down also is very much related to how we want things to start up. So with that, Heather Libby is the lead on that as a transition coordinator. And if it's okay with John, I can do a quick intro of Heather before she takes the floor. Is that what we say in WebEx? The screen, I should say. Heather Libby has over 20 years of change management and organizational effectiveness experience, both here in New Brunswick as well as from Ontario. She has had the opportunity of working in the academic as well as the government sector. More recently, she was the Vice President and Chief Culture and Brand Officer of Opportunities New Brunswick, and was instrumental in establishing the Crown Corporation, and also part of the team that made it one of the best places to work in Canada. She also happens to be a counseling therapist, recognized for supporting change and development with individuals and organizations. And with that, I'll introduce you to Heather Libby.
Thank you, Phil, for the introduction. So in my role as the transition coordinator, it's a contract, and it is to ensure that the CEO or CEDO and the board of directors are equipped to fulfill their mandate as of January 1st, 2021. So the work that I'm doing right now will be handed off to the new CEO when they are hired. So the work that I'm doing is divided into 3 buckets: governance, CEO search, and then transition. Guiding principle around a lot of this is transparency and communications, as well as business continuity. So from a governance perspective, from the outset, we initiated a transition committee. These were volunteer independent professionals led by Kathy Simpson and Dan Dwaro. And it was a group of 7 people who took their role very seriously to select the board of directors, the independent board of directors. These were 8 candidates to join the other 6 members that represent the investors, or otherwise known as the municipalities. We had our founding 6 as a transition committee. There was an open call to candidates. It was over around 2-week period that members of the community across the region could express interest to participate in this board, and it closed on September 11th. We had over 60 applications. It was really important that this was a truly an open and transparent process to set the tone for what this new agency is going to be about in terms of selecting quality professionals based on, and it was a skills matrix based on competency, experience, and then there was obviously some demographic regional composition to consider. It was a very, very difficult task. The good news is the region has obviously a lot to celebrate in that the caliber of candidates was exceptional, and that the new board will have a large roster of people to call upon for this change, and that's exactly what we've set the expectation for all of these new board members, is that they're change leaders. And the first board meeting is already set for September 30th. The expectation at that first board meeting, in addition to setting governance and bylaws and getting that established, is the establishment of an HR committee. And that leads to the next priority, which is getting a leader in place for this new agency. And right now, Audrey Bernstein has been engaged as an executive search firm. They've started the consultation process so that when that HR committee is struck, it can be handed the consultative work and we can get a job posting up as soon as possible. The other role of that HR committee is to secure and, well, I would call it retaining the top talent that we have currently doing the work, and that comes into the business continuity piece. So that is paramount priority of the new agency, or the new board of governors, excuse me. The last bit of work, it has to do with the transition, and I've been lucky to been working closely with Phil and his team to ensure that we have some quality material, that the wind down is of a level of integrity that makes it easy for us to do the startup. So I'm beginning at this stage, only beginning to engage legal and financial resources to begin the actual standing up of the organization based on the information that we've gathered from, or that Phil has gathered from the existing agencies. I continue to have dialogue with each of the existing agencies, the CAOs, and now as well the new board of directors. So constant communication, as I mentioned, that is a huge piece of the guiding principle, that everybody who is involved knows what's happening before the rest of the world, so that they're empowered with information. And with that, I will hand it back to you, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you very much, Heather. Thank you for the update. Thank you for the progress. I think there's been a lot of work done in a short period of time. It's nice to hear the update on where we are. Certainly know the goal is still to stand up here in the new year. So we know the new board has signed on. Congratulations to the board members. Thank you to the board members because I think what they're doing is signing on to a very exciting time to be part of this new organization. And I think it's a great point that you make, Heather, around the number of applicants that we had, and I think it speaks to how much and how passionate people are about this region. And I think that's a great point. I had not thought of that point, but I think it's a great point that you've made, that if the board needs to stand up some committees and some working groups, it sounds like there's an awful lot of bench strength there for folks who want to be part of a thriving region. So I think that's wonderful. Okay, well, thank you. High-level committee members, any comments or questions for the city manager, Heather, or for Phil?
John McKenzie, Your Worship, thank you. Thank you, Heather, for the update. Very inspired by the way things are moving, and I think that we're going to see a real benefit, starting January 1st to the new way of doing business. And I'm glad to hear that we're looking at all those, people that we have right now that are doing such a fine job to, count on them to lead the way. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Anyone else?
Councillor Hickey here, Your Worship, if I can.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. No questions. Just a brief comment. Certainly looking forward to this, and really excited about the prospect of what's to come for economic development in the city, and certainly the importance of continuing the momentum that's been growing and the continuation of business as from the work that our economic development agencies are doing as it stands, and hoping to build the efficiency, I think is very clear as we move forward. So very much looking forward to that. And that's all for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Okay, so thanks for those comments. I'm very excited as well for the prospects of the region coming together. I mean, this is I think the first of many opportunities to come together. The region, I think, can be an economic powerhouse. It already is, but I think it can be an economic powerhouse. Back, you may or may not know, but from 1961 to 1971, there were over 33,000 people that moved to St. John in that 10-year period. And I asked myself, why not again? Why, we know that the province needs 120,000 people to replace those that are retiring over the next 10 to 15 years. So I really would like to see this region position itself with very, very strong strategy, one plan, one message, one voice coming together. I'm going to be very excited to you, I guess, Heather, and to you, City Manager, to really see how the board is going to define success. I'm going to be excited to read about, obviously the leadership piece is imperative. I'll be excited to see the selection of the new leader of this organization. I think obviously that sets the tone, but the strategy, the objectives, the work plan, the metrics, a model of openness and transparency. I'm really excited to see how this board, this very, very impressive roster, defines what success looks like for this organization, moving forward. So it's a very, very exciting time when you couple this with all of the other initiatives that are underway, some of which were highlighted in our previous agenda items. So again, I'd say thank you very much. Exciting times. We recognize that it's a time of great change. So I am pleased, Heather and City Manager, to hear the urgency in which the board is trying to bring as much certainty as it can during this time of great change. So I know we recognize that there's some angst for folks as we make this change from 3 or 4 separate approaches into one new organization. I know the board has got that top of mind, and we thank them for that as well. All right, receive and file, please, committee.
So moved.
Thank you, John. Seconded by Councillor Hickey. Thank you very much. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And anyone contrary-minded? Well, maybe just do the contrary-minded. Not hearing any, the motion's carried. Thank you. The next item we have is a development activity update. And I believe I'm going to Ms. Poffenroth for
that. Thank you, Your Worship, and members of the Growth Committee. I'm pleased this afternoon to provide a development update for recent activity with the permits and development approvals. And we have midsummer results on where we are with the permit valuations. So we've definitely seen in the last 3 months very strong recovery in the months of June, July, and August. The 10-year average for permit valuations at the end of July is much higher than a typical year. In fact, given normal years, this is the highest construction value in the last 10 years, with only one exception, an outlier year. With respect to permit numbers, we are in line with our typical year. The number is a bit lower, but it's definitely an indication that we are getting a larger number of large projects and quite a large number of smaller homeowner improvement type of projects. So it is a very positive growth trend that we've been seeing with respect to construction activity. Permit revenue projections for the end of the year have been modified to reflect a better year than what we had even anticipated, despite the slow spring we had with the COVID pandemic situation, which did result in a bit of a slowdown in the spring months, as everybody can appreciate. But since that time, recovery has been very strong. Construction has rebounded and, in fact, has surpassed typical years. And this is consistent with what other jurisdictions are experiencing. So our permit projections for end of year has been increased, and where we expect to be at the end of the year is reflective of potentially $100 million of construction value. So the next thing I'd like to share, just where we are with the major development activity. Some large-scale permits have been issued in the last couple of months, and notably, I'll go through some of the notable projects we have been pleased to issue permits for in the last few months. The 95 Wentworth project, that's an 83-unit multi-unit residential. They have all their permits issued now, and they're constructing the project as we speak. We also issued a permit for 75 Heatherway, and that's a 24-unit multi-residential. another large multi-unit project of 82 unit at 50 Via Calabria Street. And another large project, the St. John Nonprofit Housing Project on Wellington Row, 47 units there. That permit's been issued as well. And finally, at the 134 Taylor Avenue, we issued a permit for a 12-unit building there. So very strong in the residential multi-unit construction, and definitely indicates a strong recovery from the COVID situation. And finally, what I'd like to share with the committee is that we still are experiencing high volumes of permit applications, and we have over 35 permits in our queue right now being reviewed for a total construction value of $44 million. So still strong activity in the permit and development approvals, and we look forward to a strong fall to continue this record-breaking year. Thank you.
Wow, that is a good news, very, very good news update. Thank you, Ms. Poffenroth. Any questions, comments, committee? Okay, not hearing any. Yeah, just again, sorry, Amy, my jaw is sort of falling open a bit here. It's a really fantastic news. It matches, what you're seeing around town, cranes up, building supply companies flat out, contractors flat out, and I think it really speaks to our previous item as well, and the item, all of our items today, in really keeping our finger on the pulse of what's going on, in being proactive and being strategic, and you and your department have invested so much energy over the last couple of years in workshopping and working with developers and streamlining permitting processes. We now, this is my first official meeting in the new mayor's office. We know we're going to have a new group of folks downstairs providing new service to a new approach to service, to taking the one-stop development shop to a whole new level. We have a customer service project underway. We have a strategic planning exercise underway. So this is a corporation and an organization on the move to serve and enhance the service to citizens on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. So, the indicators are very positive on construction today, but I think in my mind, it's all linked together. And this growth committee has put a tremendous amount of effort in over the last 4 years to be driving and talking about and enhancing growth outcomes. And thank you to you and all of the other City of St. John employees who help get real stuff done at the end of the day. So thank you very much.
Okay. You're welcome, Your Worship.
Thanks. Okay, can I have an enthusiastic receive and file for that report, please?
Here's your enthusiastic receive and file, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor. Seconded by Councillor McKenzie. Thank you. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And anyone contrary-minded? Not seeing any. Thanks. You gave me 17 tweets during that update, Ms. Poffenroth, so thank you. Okay, and the last item for today, folks, is we have a community and economic recovery and initial feedback on the next phase of recovery programming. That was a mouthful, and that I think is going to our Deputy Commissioner, and Open Streets picnic table setter-upper, Mr. Fouillette.
Thank you, and through you, Your Worship, to members of the committee. Thank you for having us here today. The mayor just said that on Amy's update that we're flat out, and on the economic and community recovery, I would mimic that language. I was going to use full blast, but we are definitely moving forward on all the initiatives. I want to give you just a little update, but actually this is really just for some initial feedback from committee members on this next round of consultation that we'll be having within the community on economic and community recovery. And just to bring you back a little bit, Growth Committee, upon the advice of Growth Committee to Council, adopted, a program for economic and community recovery, simply stated is we acknowledge that the business community specifically was hurting in St. John. There's proof of that. We had proof of the locations that those businesses are situated within the city. And what we set out to do was to try to accelerate any form of recovery. And the easiest way to do that from a municipal standpoint on what a municipality tends to do when it comes to services to the business community is to drive traffic. So we've done that by putting up pop-up parks. We've done that by creating night market and pedestrianizing South Market. We've done that by creating open streets, which is a temporary removal of vehicles on a street to entice more people to be walking there. We've done this all continuously with ongoing consultation, with the acknowledgement that we might get this wrong and we will have to adapt. In each one of those programs have adapted. I will tell you that from the person who's overseeing it. It is a lot of adaptation and it's a lot of consultation, but we have never got our finger off the pulse of consultation. We have continued to do that. We have asked businesses how they're doing related to this. Sometimes it's not great and we've had to adapt, and sometimes it is great and we've had to adapt. So it is an ongoing effort. We have had last time we connected was with council on this, and we were informing you of a West Side open street. So that happened not this weekend, but the weekend before. And it was a very unique service offering that we've not done yet in the summer. We were very happy because it's not just about the Central Peninsula, it's about commercial districts across the entire community. And that particular event attracted approximately 850 participants. And it was without a major event in terms of safety and protocol. So we're very happy with that. And from the feedback collected from the businesses and the participants, it was quite favorable. This past weekend, we just had another one on Prince William Street. It was an adapted one due to some concerns raised on the Princess side. So it was Prince William in just one section of Prince William. And that one attracted approximately 1,500 people to the event. And I should remind you that this is not 1,500 at one particular time. This is spread out over a 5 to 7 hour period. So at any given time, there's no more than 30 or 40 people on the street, and we would continue to monitor that in terms of respecting social distancing. I should mention that the 10, 15-minute parking spots across the city are active. We are actually working with Uptown St. John and revisiting that and seeing what needed changes are welcome for that. So we will be working through that, and we will update you with that as we identify a resolution to next steps. The biggest next step for us, though, is that, look at what I've told you so far. A pop-up park, new sod, a picnic tables. You got an open street on one of the beautiful streets in the Uptown. You have a pedestrian South Market. You have 15-minute parking. You have the night market. Those all tend to be more related to summer months. So we're entering into a new phase here of economic and community recovery. And what does that mean? The pre-existing programming will be kind of wrapping up. We're not going to obviously maintain a pop-up park in the middle of February or have an open street necessarily in the middle of the winter. So I think we've got to put our thinking caps on, both as administrators, as elected officials, as well as businesses and the community. On what exactly is the next step? I should remind council that there was an earmarked amount of money through the growth reserve of $550,000 to support economic and community recovery. We've spent approximately $100,000 through the pre-existing efforts. So we have about $450,000 left for that. Doesn't mean we have to, as mentioned previously, there's no need to jump to that right away. And we don't need to spend that if we don't need to spend that. But that is what we have available for now. The next phase of consultation will basically be two-pronged. One is, let's do a little debrief, a community debrief on the pre-existing programs of 2020. How has it gone? All these programs that I've talked about so far today. What feedback do we have? What should we be looking at next year? Are there some things that should become more enhanced, more permanent, more directed? And we'll want to collect that. Is this something that is only for the pandemic response, or is this something that we've learned that we'd like to continue on? So that will be one phase, is kind of a debrief. But the next one will also say, what else should we do, and what is the next phases of a community and economic recovery? We will be seeking input from a variety of stakeholders in the community, as well as obviously business owners. But before we do that, we wanted to come to you. We wanted to give the Growth Committee an opportunity to give us your feedback, your reflection on community and economic recovery in 2020 so far. And also any thoughts that you have to help us guide these future conversations with the community on economic and community recovery. If there's ideas or thoughts or even parameters that you're really interested in, that would be greatly appreciated, so that we can establish the consultation in that format. So I think the best way to do this is to pass it on to the mayor to facilitate this kind of roundtable discussion. We'll be taking notes, and we'll be here to answer any questions if there are any to have. So thank you.
Okay, thank you for that update, Phil, and thank you for the effort on those projects. Committee, any sort of higher level comment, feedback for the Deputy Commissioner and others?
John McKenzie, Your Worship, thank you. Thanks, Phil, for the update. And I guess my feeling on this is that, the comments that I got on the open street concept were, for the most part, fairly positive, but there was some concerns on it moving around from one place to another. And, the examples were, the Queen Square Market doesn't move over to Victoria Square and move around, it stays in one spot, and everybody knows what the hours are and where to go for that event. And the same with the night market. So I think going forward, we might look at more of a strategic plan to have an area that wants it done on a weekly basis, and the hours would have to be something that, like Friday after 5 o'clock until Sunday at 5 o'clock, so that it doesn't bother the office workers and the professionals, doctors, dentists, that sort of thing. But other than that, I think we're doing a good job. I think we need to look at venues to move inside those favorable and successful events that we have outside during the good weather, the warm weather. And we have in St. John a terrific pedway system, that could be turned into a venue for people to market goods, similar to what we have at the Queen Square Market during the summertime. And if we utilize our inside space during the winter, I think we could have a very successful event on a weekly basis, similar to what we do in the summer. Those would be my comments. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Anyone else? Councillor?
I do, Your Worship, if I can. Councillor Hickey.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much, and thanks, Phil, for the presentation. Certainly we've had fair share of challenges in our economic recovery, but I think what's resounding for me is that we had a strategy, and we worked with the community to be able to put something in place. And in doing so, the example stands that the majority of municipalities didn't have a strategy like ours that was comprehensive enough to work to support businesses in the community, and whether or not and the community as a whole, and whether or not that supported all businesses and was the exact fit for all businesses. It certainly wasn't, but we had a strategy in place, and we worked our best and did our best, and staff was and certainly you felt worked extremely hard to have something in place. It had its challenges, whether it was the 15-minute parking or whatever it is. But I hope what we use moving forward are examples of this. I would consider the success of open streets, and certainly that coordination, that I hope we can use that moving forward and into, hopefully non-quarantine summers and non-socially distant summers, and use that as an example to say, let's work to use open streets as an example of other activities we can do once we get back to normal. And hopefully that stays, because I think, in the conversations I've had with small business owners and the communities, particularly in the uptown, these were positive steps, and they appreciated the efforts that the city made. Whether or not they agreed with all the steps, of course, that's not going to be the case. But something was done in that, and that level of measure did go a long way for them. So I'm hoping that we can use that as kind of a frame of reference moving forward to say, let's try and do open streets more consistently. Let's come up with other strategies to do that. Certainly, I would echo Councillor McKenzie's comments in saying that, there were some communication challenges around the streets moving. But I think that's also an effort to make sure that we were including as many businesses as possible and casting as wide of net as possible in order to support our economic recovery. And I do think that's what it did. I do think that's what it accomplished. Certainly there was challenges, but as is anything when you're turning strategies that should take months into strategies that are being implemented in weeks and days. So I certainly appreciate that effort. And like I said, the conclusion of my comments would just be that I hope we use this as a frame of reference moving forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else? The committee. Okay, just a couple of comments for me then, Phil. So I think both councillors pointed to some great comments. My reflection for today is I think we need to broaden the partnerships, and I think in particular the Chamber, Uptown St. John. I think Councillor Hickey eloquently captured, you're not going to make everyone happy. I think a lot of people were very appreciative of the efforts made. There's significant investment made. But is that sustainable? I mean, I saw the same people working Monday to Friday out on Saturdays, putting the picnic tables out and and along with volunteers as well. And I just worry about that piece. And is it our role? Is it the lead role? And is it sustainable? So if we're going to do something moving forward, which I think we should do around open streets and animations and using, Ms. Hamilton, the fact that now you've got this new alignment and structure, maximizing Rockwood Park, maximizing the tools that we have in our tool belt, but who leads those initiatives and is it a sustainable plan? And we knew that there was so much uncertainty when council and this committee endorsed a plan to invest in these areas, but moving forward, how we do it, is it sustainable? What are the partnerships? Where's the, Uptown, St. John, the Chamber, Port, other, sort of corporate players, perhaps. Are there some partnership opportunities? So I think it's good. I think we learned a lot, and I just think we should build a model that is sustainable, sort of moving forward. I'm not interested in depleting our growth reserve on these types of projects personally. I think the growth reserve should be held for much more strategic investments in really game-changing the city and its future. And I just would close by saying that I think these are fantastic and really, really important. But what's really going to change the future of our city is staying really focused on those, the big pieces of the puzzle, the reforms, comprehensive tax reform, regional cost sharing, and really positioning the city to grow and thrive. And of course, once people are here, those quality of life mechanisms and taking advantage of all the the park space and all of the opportunities that we already have. So a jumbled bit of feedback, but I think you've done an amazing job. I just worry about the sustainability of it. So if we're going to do this again in the future, what are those events and who's partnering on it and who's funding? And maybe the role for the city in the future is it sticks to its core, but it makes available some dollars to Uptown St. John or some other groups who maybe animate some of the streets. I don't know the right answer, but that's where I'd leave my comments for for today. Okay, well, thank you very much for the presentation, and we'll just ask for a receive and file, please, committee, on that report as well.
So moved.
Okay, Councillor Hickey, thank you. Seconded by Councillor McKenzie. On the question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And anyone contrary-minded? Not hearing any. Thank you. Just before we wrap up, again, a great thanks. A lot of really, really important initiatives. This is a city on the move. This is a city that's turned the corner. There's a lot of positive to be celebrating. In March, when I reflect on what we knew and what we didn't know, and to sit and think about where we are today, we have a new majority government. We have an organization that has made some very difficult decisions. We're moving on to some very, very positive and bright. We've set the table for a very positive and bright city moving forward. I think there's a lot to be thankful for, and very, very appreciative of staff that have led. We set the what. You go and figure out how to make it happen and make it happen, and we're very appreciative of that. All of the efforts that have gone into making a lot of great work happen over the last number of months, number of years. And I think we have a very bright future ahead of us. So it's a very positive time to be on the bus, if you will, during these exciting times. So with that, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Hickey. Thank you. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Great. Anyone contrary-minded? Not seeing any. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.